Hello, everyone. Welcome to Game Junk Prototype Episode 12, recording on May 15th, 2020. My name is Frank.
My name is Sean.
My name's Andrew.
And big news week in video games. We've got Unreal 5 running on PlayStation 4. You may say shockwaves were sent through.
PlayStation 5.
What did I say? PlayStation 4?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, this is the fifth time we've done that intro. I'm really not on my game today. Sean is loving it. Piece of shit. And running on PlayStation 5, and also State of Play with Ghost of Tsushima. Huck is not impressed. You'll hear all the details on Game Junk. So, after last week, Xbox not off to a hot start this week, but at least it was kickstarting next-gen information. It feels like we're going to have stuff incoming constantly now. At least that's my thoughts. And it was another big week. I was kind of surprised that people were losing it as much as they were over the Unreal 5. I was getting texts from lots of different people. Seemed like it was a big announcement. So as Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest kicked off, it was the big reveal, which he's been hyping up big time. Sean was totally convinced it was going to be the new Rocksteady game, new Batman game.
No, not the Rocksteady one. the Warner Brothers Montreal one.
I'd heard some rumors about that too. Sean really wasn't talking about that, but it was, I think, one of the things people were considering it might be, but I don't think Unreal 5 was on the board at all. Was that, anyone heard rumors about that?
No,
not at all.
So kind of a surprise showing that off, and a playable kind of tech demo kind of game running on PlayStation 5 hardware, supposedly. And it was really impressive. The tech, the fidelity, everything about it was, the lighting, of course. Their big thing was real-time lighting and extremely high poly counts, with systems designed to use movie quality assets. And the big reveal in it, for me anyway, was taking that movie quality asset that it really was built to showcase whatever they're featuring in this engine. And the setup, it was almost like designed for a tech demo, like how you design a game, but with keeping technology in mind, where you see a statue and all this lighting, it's like the poly count's insane on it. And then, then there's a room with 1,000 of those statues doing the same thing. And so the way it was kind of revealing that, and the lack of draw in or pop up in the flying section, like it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and more impressive. So I was impressed. And I kind of said, even though this presumably could run on other consoles, I think PlayStation's already won, in my opinion. They seem to be really stressing the next gen-ness of Sony's hard drive, solid state loading, and I think that is the game changer. I think that's going to be the biggest thing out of next gen. I'm playing some older games on PlayStation 4. Graphics are still impressive on upscaled PlayStation 3 games, and the gap has not been that big. I feel like this loading thing is going to change everything, along with lighting. What do you guys think? What did you take away?
You're thinking it's a game changer, Frank? Is that what you're saying?
The loading is a game changer.
Okay.
Literally, it's going to change the way you design games. I've become much more conscious of loading gaps and crawling through crevices, as just kind of hiding loading. And Final Fantasy has a ton of that stuff, where you're going through these kind of convoluted sections just for loading and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think it'll change the way we play stuff. Like, it's in terms of pace. I remember I was blown away the first time. I think it was either Uncharted or probably God of War 3, I think, where they started doing really cool loading transitions and stuff like that. But while they were once super cool, they become tiresome and obvious. So I'm in. I think this is the biggest game changer in a long time. But anyway, talk the other Unreal stuff.
Well, I'll just quickly say, I mean, there's a few things to talk about here. I don't know. It's interesting that you're bringing up that you think PlayStation 5, that this is a huge win for PlayStation 5 and that, they're winning the generation based on this, or they're ahead in the generation based on this. I mean, we don't know.
I just got to say, not totally based on that. It was from one sentence in that, which was that Sony's loading technology is the best in all technology. It's better than PC, better than Xbox, and obviously things can catch up and things can change, but that's pretty huge to me.
Well, yeah, I think Tim Sweeney said something about the hard drive, the PS5 hard drive, that it was, he was super impressed with it and stuff. So that's got to mean something. But I mean, we don't know right now. We don't know if the Xbox Series X will look like that. I mean, it's interesting that they chose to demo it on the PS5, and I think some people have asked them about it, and they basically just said, we're showing it on the PlayStation 5 right now. That's what we're running it on. But they didn't say anything about Xbox. It seems like Xbox should be able to pull off most of this, but that the hard drive thing seems to be the difference right now.
Well, just think about it like this. Obviously, you have so much memory, right? And I guess RAM's not really changing that much, but if you can transition between scenes faster, then it kind of lets you like put more stuff in a scene or make scenes that much better looking if you don't have to be worried about how you're going to load stuff 5 minutes ahead in the game or stuff like that. Like I just feel it's going to affect every aspect of games. Menus are going to be faster. I don't know. It seems like you can optimize games in other ways with effects, lighting, poly count, stuff like that. But if you can load fast, I just feel like it's gonna be huge.
It's definitely gonna help. I would say it's gonna be like dial up versus DSL or cable connection. Like it's just gonna be a lot faster. And I was just trying to quickly look up the speed difference between like PS4, like old traditional platter hard drives, and this new SSD. I couldn't find it right away, but I did find something saying that the Xbox Series X SSD is going to be about half as fast as the PS5. I mean, they're still both blazing fast compared to current consoles. So I don't think it will be like a huge difference, but for the real cutting edge AAA games, I do think the PS4 is going to have an edge in this regard. And it's hard to tell. PS5. Yeah, it's hard to tell how much this demo is using that SSD to get what it's doing, because they weren't really talking about the like raw data throughput that they're getting off the disk. They were basically talking about the lighting and the dynamic geo they're able to do, or the nanite rendering of the vertices or whatever. So I don't know if this demo is all about the hard drive. You know what I mean? Like I don't think it might be impressive. It might be just as impressive on the Series X.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of turning this into a PlayStation hard drive thing. The demo was not about that at all, but that one sentence, you don't really say that unless, especially when you're working for all technologies, basically. Unreal's multi-platform, so it feels, I'm assuming there was a little payola here to get PlayStation stuff, but it could be that they could get it running easier on PlayStation as well. And we don't know which one of those is true, but the polycount stuff looked great. The rocks falling, lighting, moving the lights and stuff like that. I don't know. But I agree. I mean, AAA games from non-Sony companies are probably going to be limited to what the Xbox can do, right? I don't think they're going to be able to change their game design based on that stuff, but Sony will be.
I was just going to say, although from what, so I watched another interview from the Summer Fest with Tim Sweeney. I don't know if you guys watched it, Tim Sweeney and like the other two head tech guys at Unreal. and they were saying that they are making it so that you can basically export the assets per platform. So if the one of the consoles runs slightly worse, like maybe if you're using Unreal Engine, you just kind of get that speed up for free. Like, so you could maybe target PS5 if PS5 is better, higher spec, and then the Unreal Engine would just be able to cook out the assets in the proper way that keeps the frame rate up for the Series X if it is lower.
Yeah, I guess what was saying with Sony is first party games for Sony can change their design based on that.
Yes, definitely.
Something for different platforms cannot change their design or incorporate that into their design. I mean, that'll be interesting to see if, I mean, Sony's even talking about going to PC with stuff as well. So, and there's rumors about that. So if they are going that way, will they actually use this? I think it could be huge. But the graphics alone, I feel like it's a much bigger jump from PS4 to PS5 than it was from PS3 to PS4, personally.
Yeah, I mean, I was obviously impressed with the demo. I would love to play that game. I have no idea if there's something that Epic themselves is working on that's anywhere close to like what they were showing us. It kind of looked Tomb Raider-y. I don't know why that was what they chose. I guess just because of the caves and sort of how you can show off the insanely detailed lighting in that kind of environment. But you know, you always wonder, like, is it just a tech demo? Is this realistic for a full game? You know, it's a little bit hard to say, but it's certainly impressive and exciting. And I always think when it comes to next gen stuff now, I'm like, are we going to notice it? Like, is there really going to be a huge noticeable difference? And obviously, if this is what games look like now, I would say yes. But how many games will actually have this technology, right? Like how many studios use Unreal at this point? Like a lot of studios have their own engines. So, you know, will they be able to pull off the same kind of thing? I mean, you have to assume they could, especially first party developers, but or does this mean everyone's just going to move to Unreal? I don't really know, but it's still a lot of question marks, but it's pretty cool as just something to sort of set a bar and say, hey, this is what next gen could look like. And I think a lot of people are responding to that and realizing that this could be pretty cool.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking 10 years from now, the next console with VR, like it's going to be photorealistic VR at some point. Like
I would say to the Pixelknock guys, like people aren't going to want to leave VR. Like it's going to look incredible. Yeah. It's going to be you're going to be really fooled really easily. And I found the hard drive 100 times faster PS5 over PS4, the hard drive. So It's quite a jump.
I'm sure Unreal has some of this technology, but I've been looking into Unity and their data-oriented tech stack and entity component system, and the performance they're getting with some of their stuff is ridiculous as well. So, I mean, it's really getting better over these next few generations, I think. So I don't know. I'm excited. I got to say, I would never play this game. I don't think there's anything that impressive about the game itself. It seems like it was completely designed with the intent of being a tech demo. And it is kind of like Tomb Raider. I'd much rather play Tomb Raider. I don't know.
Well, I mean, but like all I'm saying is it immediately makes you think, well, okay, is this what the next Tomb Raider game could look like? But then the who's the developer for Tomb Raider again? Is it Square Enix? Crystal Dynamics.
Yeah.
They have their own engine, don't they? Like they're not using Unreal. So then you're like, is this what it would look like? I don't know. It's hard to say.
They'll catch up eventually. Like those Tomb Raider games have been at like pushing graphics since Tomb Raider kind of got rebranded on PlayStation 3, right? So they're the best looking games. They will eventually catch up. I don't know how long it's going to be, but I assume like Naughty Dog has very good technical programmers, and I mean, once it's out there, we all know how it kind of goes. It might not be instantaneous, but that stuff will make its way. Someone disagrees with me. Speak up.
Yeah, I guess the other thing I was going to mention, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but the character in this demo kind of had like a cartoony look and feel.
Mm-hmm.
They certainly weren't showing off anything about character models or sort of like photorealistic humans. So I don't know if that's, an indication that that's not something they can pull off yet, or if they feel like that just wasn't what they wanted to show off here. I mean, I don't know. Just a thing that stood out to me a little bit.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think I had a few takeaways. One was that definitely the characters and the hair in general, like the rendering of the hair specifically, not necessarily the cloth physics of it, didn't quite look right. It did look a little almost like cell shaded. And
can I predict what your second one's going to be?
Sure, go ahead.
The water.
Oh, the water looked like shit. Yeah, that wasn't what it was going to be though.
Okay, they showed the water real quick. It's like whoop, the pan back up, back up.
Yeah. No, I wasn't going to bring that up. What I was going to bring up is a more high level thing, is that I found it interesting that they have moved away from ray tracing and they've gone to this other Lumen engine that does the bounce lighting. Now it looks incredible, but I found it interesting because I totally thought with the sped up SSDs and the improved CPUs and GPUs, I thought for sure engine companies would be pushing more towards the ray tracing, and they're not, which actually tells me that maybe even these new consoles aren't even powerful enough to get the ray tracing working. And even in this demo, they said, I watched that interview with Tim Sweeney, he was saying that they were using dynamic resolution, and they even had to drop down the resolution for that big flying scene at the end to keep it at 30 frames per second. And that kind of scares me because, yes, this looks incredible, but you could tell this is just a tech demo because they don't have any AI running. They don't have any other characters animating. The only other thing that's animating in this tech demo is a few birds that are randomly placed. Everything is static. So even though they're doing dynamic lighting, there's nothing like seeing that character that doesn't quite look right makes you think that maybe rendering a lot of characters would really kind of take down the frame rate of this engine or of this technology. I don't know. It's just something to consider because they obviously, it looks great, like obviously looks incredible, but when you start throwing in real gameplay things, I'm questioning how good you'll be able to keep it looking, even with their, nanite mesh deformation stuff they're doing. I don't know if that will be enough to keep it up to a high frame rate with all the stuff. Like, once you throw in animating trees and animating bushes and, AI pathing and all that stuff. Like, I know a lot of that's CPU versus GPU, but I mean, I don't know. It seems questionable that you'll be able to get this kind of level for every game.
Yeah, well, I mean, like Frank was saying, like they show off this super high detailed model of like the statue or whatever, and then they show you like 100 of them or whatever it was, but like it's just a static model. Like there's no animation on it. There's nothing, no AI attached to that. There's nothing. So it's impressive, but you could see where maybe a full game can't pull that off necessarily.
Yeah, and the other thing I was thinking of is that they have. The other thing is that with that having those such high models, it sounds like they are more making a reference to the fact that the pipeline is going to be faster for developers. You no longer have to make the normal maps and the LODs for character models, or for objects in general, which will save a lot of time. Now, I'm not an artist. I've never made LODs, so I don't know how much of the full pipeline that took normally, but I imagine it's not trivial. So I imagine if you're able to cut that down by half the time, you can, in theory, make double the amount of assets at really, really high quality with the same amount of time, which is awesome. And that's what next gen is going to need. And then with the lighting, now you don't have to fiddle with light maps and trying to get the right resolution for the shadows to all look right and all that stuff. So then you're saving a lot of time that way with sort of lighting artists. So it does seem like they are trying to focus on sort of the pipeline. And by doing that, the fallout is that it does look really good, but also I think just the speed at which you'll be able to get assets, it could be a big win for AAA games.
Well, that, and I mean, they were talking about movie quality assets a lot, and something like the asset store in Unity. I don't know what the equivalent is in Unreal. I haven't used Unreal for quite some time, but I mean, what's to stop someone like Pixar or, these high quality special effects companies, like they can sell their assets, especially for stuff like terrain and rocks and trees and stuff like that. They'll just work automatically.
Yeah, they were definitely pushing that angle a little bit, and it also, I think, would be huge for licensed games. Like you could potentially just be handed all the assets from the actual movie and just throw it in your game.
Mm-hmm.
It is impressive. I know in the interview I said they mentioned limitless geometry, which seems unbelievable that you could actually have limitless geometry, even if you could do it in game. And this nanite technology is smart enough to be able to, decipher all of it and color it all appropriately and reduce all the triangles. Like, I can't even imagine what the workflow would be like. You'd have to have like a supercomputer to run the editor to move around all that stuff, because in the editor you still need to have all the hooks to everything to move around. And I can't imagine working, in the Unreal editor, moving around all that stuff if there's like billions and billions of meshes you're trying to deal with. So I think
should have closed the door.
The one thing with that too, though, is maybe it's like editing suite sometimes, where maybe you're working with a lower res version of models in editor or something like that. I don't know why, but maybe they make concessions like that, or who knows. But I'm sure lighters especially would need to like see what it looks like in the editor. So, and presumably the PC is more powerful than the console. So that I'm assuming it's not an issue, but yeah, it's looking pretty good. I'm excited. I think I would have been more impressed with a big game announcement, to be perfectly honest, but it's the best next gen thing I've seen so far, I would say.
They did announce that in the interview I watched, that they're going to be moving Fortnite over to Unreal Engine 5. So it'll be interesting to see if that gets a big bump in quality and how quickly they can actually convert it. So that'll be interesting once that comes out.
Yeah, I guess one of the like Fortnite actually, there was like the Travis Scott concert or something like that. They did like in-game content, and those are some pretty cool ideas too. And I mean, the Epic store was broken the last 24 hours because they had GTA 5 for free, and they're getting a lot of traffic. They have a big marketing push this week, I'm assuming, with the engine announcement and the GTA 5 thing. There's like some big sale going on in the Epic store as well. So I'm assuming they're having a pretty good week.
Yeah. They also announced in that interview that they're releasing like the Fortnite Online SDK, which if you choose to use it, gives you access to every Epic store account. Like you could just broadcast messages out, it sounds like, to everyone who plays Fortnite, which I don't know how many people play Fortnite. 1 million? I mean, not million, like 10 million, 20 million, 100 million? I'm not sure, but it's a lot. So they are really trying to get people on to Unreal. And with a demo like this, it could work.
Yeah. I mean, we'll have to see reports of people actually using it, obviously, right? This is very controlled, but it is cool.
Yep.
Sean, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, just the Epic Game Store thing is interesting. I mean, when it started, it seemed like a lot of people were very resistant to it, and everyone loved Steam. But they are definitely putting a lot of money behind it, a lot of marketing behind it. And I mean, those free games, a lot of people are paying attention to that stuff now. So I don't know. I mean, it's definitely helping them get a foothold for the PC market.
I mean, the other takeaway, I don't have too much else to say about the demo. Do you guys have anything before I move on, or?
I have a few things.
Okay.
So the virtual like geometry and stuff, I was kind of reading into that, how they use like a big texture. So that is essentially mega textures, which is what Carmack was pushing.
Here we go.
Oh yeah, you know it. But I found this interesting because id Tech 7, which is what they're using for Doom Eternal, they actually cut out all of the mega textures because they couldn't solve all the pop-in issues. Now, obviously, there's no pop-in issues in this demo, and maybe that is because of the SSD speed. But I find it interesting that id Tech, which I was reading more about their engine, and it sounds really, really fast, the id Tech 7. They said they can run Doom Eternal on like a high-end PC at like 500 frames a second, which seems insane that you can actually get a game to run that fast. So, I mean, it's interesting to see Epic going one way and, you know, id Tech kind of going another way. It'll be interesting to see how now Unity chooses to kind of approach next gen development as it proceeds. And yeah, I'm just, oh, the other thing is it sounded like from this interview that this demo took 6 months and 24 people to make, and they already had almost all the assets from that Quixel company they purchased. So it gives you an idea of how long a game that looks this good would take to make. Like it would be years, 4 or 5 years. Easy.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say. Obviously, a lot of the tech was in progress, but how much of it was ironing out bugs with the tech or figuring out what's going on with this stuff too. So
yeah, I mean, they're working on tools and stuff for it as well. I'm sure they're not completely there yet. I guess they said that the Unreal Engine 5 will be the end of next year. Is that what they're aiming for?
I think
early
so. I didn't write it down.
Early 2021?
That's what I remember hearing, but I'm not sure. It could have just been 2021 and there was more details about that for sure.
Yeah, I just remember thinking, well, I'm pretty sure they said like launch titles for the next gen stuff will not be running on it. They'll be, if anything, they'd be running on the 4.25.
Yeah, it sounded like they were going to do a preview build of the engine and then get Fortnite running on it. And then once kind of Fortnite is off and running, then they would release the full thing.
Yeah, I thought they said Fortnite would be shipping with that engine in early 2021, but I could be wrong.
One last thing they mentioned, which they just kind of like briefly breezed over, was the audio portion. How they have that new audio reverb type tech they put in, which to me sounded almost identical to what Sony already said they had. So I found that interesting that maybe Sony's solution isn't, you know, special to the hardware. It sounds more like it's some sort of software solution that, or at least something that could be emulated in software. And so maybe that's not as big a thing as Sony maybe wants it to be.
I felt Sony's thing was more about discrete locations for audio and dedicated hardware for those discrete locations. So I was actually thinking in combination, the two could be really effective. Like getting
maybe
really like discrete sound locations along with reverb. I mean, audio is not a game changer in my opinion. My opinions on that stuff are well known in Film Junk, but I do appreciate game audio, but it does get the short end of the stick, so to speak. Like it usually is the last thing people consider, and it's not a huge priority, which isn't a good thing. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but even though that technology exists, you have to have a pretty big budget and experienced sound people to make that happen, which some companies have. I don't know about all.
Yeah, not a lot of games are being sold on the sound, but they could be, maybe.
Well, I have one last thing. I can't believe this wasn't a bigger deal. Tim Sweeney's Popeyes.
I don't know how many people saw that interview though. Do you think a lot of people saw that interview?
Well, that was part of like the whole hour thing. He had a.
Oh, really? You know what it was though? A lot of like the other sites that were covering it only linked to like the 9-minute Unreal demo. They didn't link to like the Summer Game Fest video.
Yeah, that's the main thing I saw originally as well. So yeah.
Well, I watched the interview, and everyone's at home in their home offices or whatever, and just going for that Popeyes cup. I thought mild game changer. I went and got Popeyes right after it was over. I'm like, does Tim Sweeney is he payola for this thing? Did he? If I was doing a professional broadcast like that, millions of people were watching, I would. I mean, I have a little glass of water here, whatever. Sometimes I have a Diet A&W, but I mean, I would not be going for that Popeyes cup if I knew everyone was watching me. It's just okay, a little Popeyes, sweet, and I mean, it worked. I got Popeyes, so, and it was kind of busy when I went to pick it up. So I don't know if everyone was watching the same thing I'm watching, or Tim Sweeney's getting Popeyes payback or payola.
Well, if it was a monster, then you would know it would have been definitely paid product placement. But
yeah, big moment for Popeyes this week too.
How's the stock? Should we check out the stock price? See if it had a big jump today?
I don't even know if Popeyes is public.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's see.
This is This is a
Popeyes chicken. Let's see. This is taking too long. Okay, let's move on. I'll do a Popeyes update later on.
Okay. Popeye stock ticker upcoming. So next story was Sony's first state of play in quite some time. And it was dedicated to Ghost of Tsushima, which is coming out July 17th or 19th on PlayStation 4. New game from Sucker Punch Studios, who've made the Infamous games and Sly Cooper games. I loved it. I mean, we'll definitely talk about this, Huck, but I clearly saw the influence of many open world games, just like I do in other games as well. Breath of the Wild, certainly. Horizon, Sekiro with the combat and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's not, I've said this about Sony a long time, right? When they did trophies and other stuff too, but I wouldn't give them credit for being the most original company in the world. I don't think maybe that'll change with some of their tech on PlayStation 5, but it does.
Got the most obvious one.
Which one?
Assassin's Creed.
Oh, that, yeah, for sure. Assassin's Creed.
It's like an Assassin's Creed copy.
Assassin's Creed to me is more like it's impacted every game already at some point. Like Assassin's Creed impacted Zelda, which impacted Horizon. So it is, I should say it for sure. Like it kind of redefined vertical exploration in open world games. And that seems to be a factor now too. Obviously Red Dead with the horse riding, but that was expanded upon in Breath of the Wild as well. I don't know if this has automatic horse riding where it doesn't hit trees. That was the big thing I remember in the Breath of the Wild demo that they talked about. But I mean, the wind, the idea of
there
wind,
is that the forest that they show them riding through, right? Like,
but it didn't go through trees. I was looking very carefully for that. I mean, one thing I look for gameplay stuff, and this is the stuff and announcements that I love. Watching games play. How are they communicating visually what you need to do? And sometimes games are worried about looking cinematic, where that doesn't matter to me in these things. I want to see what it's going to be like for me playing. So I love stuff like gathering resources when you're on your horse, like just as simple as hitting R2, even though it makes no sense why you can gather bamboo when you're riding past it. I love that. It's like, okay, I'm playing Last of Us. I'm riding the horses. It's kind of boring. I'm just riding a horse. And so if they have ways of making that more interesting while you're doing stuff like that, I'm 100% in. And I love the new design stuff. Like I've been the Breath of the Wild versus Horizon stuff I've talked about before. I like the directed experience of Horizon, where I know where I'm going. I know what I need to do. I understand that's not for everyone. That's a matter of taste. People like exploring and finding things out for themselves in something like Zelda. Totally personal opinion. But the idea of like having animals or wind and all this stuff direct the experience in creative ways, I love that. So, I mean, the biggest question mark for me is the combat and this idea of the honorable versus dishonorable ways of approaching combat. Where in the past Infamous games, good or bad, they're pretty similar, so slight variances on the powers, but these feel like vastly different ways of approaching playing the game. And obviously my first thought is trophies, because there's usually a trophy in each of their game for beating it with different alignments. So if I got to do this bad boy twice, I'm not going to be too happy about that. But they're vastly different play styles, which I think could be cool. Like totally different ways of playing the game, customizing your character, stuff like that. I'm in. I think it looks amazing. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Sean.
Well, I mean, I thought it looked great. Obviously, like just the look of it. I mean, Frank, you want to talk classitosis?
Oh, I was just thinking the same thing.
Are you going to be playing with the black and white mode?
If there is a trophy for complete the game completely in black and white mode, I will be playing it in black. I'm hoping that's not the case. I like color. Call me crazy, especially in games. That's a huge part of the games. I was thinking, we had a question about classitosis. This is the closest things video games have gotten to classitosis in a while. So I wasn't crazy about black and white mode. I thought it looked okay. It's an interesting idea. I don't know if I'd play it in that mode, but it's weird. As soon as you were right before you said it, I'm like, oh my God, we had a question about classitosis. This game has classitosis. So on the same wavelength, but I'm loving it.
Oh yeah. I mean, personally, I like the black and white mode. I don't know. It will be a hard decision whether to play. I mean, obviously I'll probably try it out, but will I commit to it? I don't know. But they start the whole thing off talking about exploration and stuff. And I am somebody that, is in these kind of games for exploration. I'm always with open world games, I'm always like, is this going to be the kind of game that I just am overwhelmed by? And obviously I love Breath of the Wild. So I'm always thinking about like, what is it that they did that kept me coming back? And I think part of it is that they always had different parts of the map that you're working to unlock, and you're still exploring the world as you go. That was a big driving force for me. But yeah, I just love the look of it. I'm a little confused about the choosing which way you play. Like, is that something where, your decisions affect whether you're the ghost or the samurai, or do you have to choose at the start of the game, I'm going ghost or I'm going samurai?
I'm trying to think how it works in Infamous. It seems weird that they would lock you out of complete systems. I feel like in Infamous you
don't you choose by like killing moments. People or not killing people or something?
There's moments where you lean towards, blue or red in Infamous. And I mean, I would say Infamous Second Son had that system, but it wasn't as directly related to your power, I don't think. Oh, maybe it was, because you could do different powers, right? There was neon and smoke and all that stuff. So,
right, yeah.
TV or electricity, whatever it was. So I don't know. I feel like they'll let you switch back and forth, but there's going to be consequences, and I know there's going to be 2 different trophies. I'm pissed.
I mean, I like being able to. I would prefer to be able to kind of choose in the moment which way I want to go, but it sounds like that's not really what they're going for. Like,
I think you will for sure.
Yeah,
yeah. It'll be I think it's a Knights of the Old Republic thing where.
But I mean, that's the thing is those games. To me, I'm always like playing it down the middle. I want to do a bit of both, but then there's not really a benefit. You get more powerful if you go all dark or all light, but if you play it down the middle, there's no benefit. So it's kind of like you have to force yourself to choose.
Definitely. I think that's the problem with these games, I think, is you basically have to choose one or the other, and then you're stuck doing a double run to make sure you get both trophies.
It seems like a really bad decision to me to like completely lock you out of what seem like really complicated systems. In Infamous, it's like changing the color of stuff. It's like whether a bomb splits in two versus big bomb and stuff like that. It's not earth-shattering gameplay type stuff. Like I would think they would have design sections or stuff where you're using honorable versus dishonorable combat. And if you were putting that much effort into a system, if I was directing that game, I would say, why are we locking people out of being able to use these cool systems? It seems like a bad idea to me.
Just going back to the horse riding, I'm rewatching the trailer right now or the gameplay. And I must say, there is you got to rewatch this, Frank. He goes through some pretty tight trees on the horse, and it looks very smooth. Like the horse, I don't know if he's doing much in the way of controlling it, but it looks like there'll be no tree hitting. You'll be very happy.
Well, I mean, Zelda was really saying, when you're on a horse, you don't have to tell your horse don't hit a tree. A horse knows not how to hit a tree.
Well,
so
I think
there is some guidance there, but I can't tell. I can't see what they're doing with the controller. I have no idea. I hope that's the case.
Yeah, I have some
more stuff. Sony, steal it all.
I have some questions about the combat when you're not the ghost, when you're the samurai or whatever. So I don't know if you remember when he first goes into that Mongol fort or whatever it was. He seems to like one-shot kill a whole bunch of guys. Now, I don't know if that's because he got some sort of like perfect timing attack in. This is where it's a little confusing because then later on, there's like an archer who has no armor at all and no defense, and it takes him like 2 or 3 swipes to get that guy. So I don't know. I mean, that's a little confusing to me as to why, like how the combat's going to work in that regard. Is he just doing special moves? Is it because he had some sort of counterattack? So that's not really clear. I mean, that could make the combat more interesting.
Well,
if there is that sort of timing stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's I don't know if you noticed on the bottom left, there was like this bar with these circles over top. And I wasn't seeing how the circles were reacting to what was going on, but I'm assuming it's a fully like that. The circles match the bar. So I assume they're playing in some fully powered up version of the game where you can do these instant kills and stuff like that. And it changes and you have to decide when to use them and when not to. And you get more powerful as the game progresses. This is all speculation on my part.
So I'm watching it right now and the circles do not change. There's
I know.
Always 9 or whatever. So he's obviously not using some sort of like special move when he takes those guys out in one swipe, or at least it appears that he's not.
Yeah, I mean,
it is interesting.
I thought it could be a debug mode too, right? Where they're not really revealing the systems and stuff like that.
Maybe.
But
yes,
I don't know, because I'm thinking if they just do what Sekiro and Nioh do already, which is kind of calculated hack and slash to some degree. Sekiro is obviously more calculated than Nioh, but they both have this balance. I like the idea of like a sword hit killing someone with one shot if you do it right. I obviously still have big question marks as to how you make that a skill and how you fail. And I don't think the demo addressed those thoughts at all for me. It just kind of looked like they were super powerful and everything was going right. I didn't see a lot of points where they took hits or hit reacted and what that means in this game. So there's still huge questions in terms of how it plays with stuff like that I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing what it's all about. But the world, I thought I'd be sick of, like, I love Nioh, Sekiro, and another game in kind of feudal Japan, and I am totally ready for it. It feels different enough to me.
So in Nioh and Sekiro, there was no HUD, right? For like countering and dodging? Or was there?
For countering and dodging.
And what about Fallen Order?
Yeah, they're all kind of the same thing where bosses have like a health, but there's always this like, they call it different things. It's like a stagger, or no, that's Final Fantasy. There's stance and posture damage in Sekiro, which as they block, posture damage goes up, and you're trying to break their posture to get insta kills, basically. So there are systems for that, and Fallen Order kind of does the same thing where it's, you kind of whittle away at stamina, similar to Dark Souls or something like that, that allows them not to block. And it's pretty, as you play those games, how those systems work. And I didn't see anything as it didn't feel like a ripoff of that system, whatever's going on.
So they don't have some sort of like parry system where you have to time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You have to get it perfect. But, and all those games tend to have some kind of tells or alternate systems for avoiding unblockable stuff. So there's a lot of blockable attacks that you have to time correctly. In Sekiro, you get big bonuses to posture damage if you time them perfectly. And that's the rewarding thing in Sekiro, getting good at that stuff. So I'm really, the more I play other games and I'm going back to playing other games, the more I appreciate Sekiro. I'm liking it more and more. So I don't know. Obviously the traversal looks way better. That's the one flaw in Sekiro, like the grappling hook and swinging on the ship in the shipyards and stuff like that. That looked awesome to me. So it feels like it's its own game, clearly influenced by many other games, but I love the wind too, his cape and all that stuff.
The cloth looks real good.
I gotta say, Sean, though, if we're talking about black and white samurai mode, the thing that pushes it into kind of classitosis for me is the grain. I don't want.
Yeah.
I might be willing to play in black and white without the grain, but as soon as they do like Grindhouse, I'm like, I'm out. I will go watch Grindhouse. Fuck you.
Yeah, I kind of agree, but I want to see what it looks like. It looked kind of cool still.
All right, that's all I have for that game. What do you guys got? Anything? Any other thoughts on Ghost of Tsushima? Is it a buy? Definitely a buy. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, it'll probably be a buy for me.
It's definitely a library borrow. Guaranteed library.
Yeah, these are definitely a buy.
Definitely. All right, so let's get on to what we played. Nice little all right for Jay in there. Hope you're listening. Sean, you want to go first?
Sure. Okay, I got two quick things. So I mentioned last week, I Expect You to Die. I've been playing that, kind of taking turns with Kieran. I don't know how you guys feel about VR for kids. I'm very unsure about this. The kids are into VR, but I'm trying to make them play at 15 or 20-minute intervals because, they say no kids under 12 are supposed to play VR. I don't know the science behind it. But anyway.
Someone's reporting you to social services right now.
Probably. So it's a spy game. Obviously, the title taken from Goldfinger. You're a spy, and each scenario that you're in is sort of like an elaborate trap or series of traps you're trying to escape from, and you're kind of fixed in one position, but you're using gadgets and things in your environment to solve puzzles and get out of that situation. And it's got a little bit of a sense of humor, and it's great. I mean, it's kind of perfect for what you want in VR. As with most VR games, probably the biggest complaint is it's very short. I'm on the final mission now, and I think there's only like 6 or 7, and I think 2 of those were actually DLC missions that they released afterwards. So, yeah, I mean, if you can get it on sale or something, that might be advisable, but I'm enjoying that quite a bit. And we didn't talk about the announcement of the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 remastered, but that was, I think, the first Jeff Keighley announcement thing, right? And so once I
didn't even know that was tied to that.
Yeah. So once that was announced, I kind of got the itch to go back to Tony Hawk, and I was thinking, well, what was the last Tony Hawk game that was released? And I think it was Tony Hawk 5. And I realized I had never even bought it, and I started looking up stuff, and the reviews were terrible, and I kind of remember that now. But I did have Tony Hawk's Pro Skater HD on my Xbox 360, which came out like a few years before that. and I think it's delisted now, so you can't actually get it. But it's, I think, 7 or 8 levels from 1 and 2, and it's pretty good. I was definitely just going back to Tony Hawk and that kind of 2-minute game loop. I mean, it's so addictive and so well crafted that I was getting back into it pretty quickly. But I did find that the controls were a little sluggish, and I was kind of feeling like I couldn't get good lines going. I was like, what is it? Like, am I just terrible at this game? Like, I don't know. That's probably not a crazy thought, but I went to my crawl space and I dug out Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2X, which was the first 2 games re-released on the original Xbox. And this is backwards compatible.
I totally thought you were going to say I went into my crawl space and pulled out my skateboard and started skating down the street.
No,
I thought he was going to say, I was going half in between the Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam where you rode this.
Never got any of those. Apparently they're all terrible. But so 2X, I threw that in because it's backwards compatible with the 360, and it's fantastic. Like it plays great, and it's way better than HD. So I kind of feel like, and now that I'm playing that, I'm like, that's basically what the 1 and 2 remastered is going to be, just with better graphics. So I don't even know if I need that anymore, but I have been playing it, and maybe I do. But I've been enjoying it. I mean, it's kind of just a bit of a nostalgia trip, all the music and stuff. I was into a lot of those bands at the time even. And it's just one of those games that I have a lot of memories associated with. It was like at that time, you go over to somebody's house and everybody would just have Tony Hawk, and it would just be on and people would be hanging out playing it. And it just is one of those games that you can just throw on and get sucked in. So I don't know. I would like a whole new game, but I guess after 5, maybe they're scared to do that. But the physics, though, it does seem like there's something about Neversoft and how they kind of did the first bunch of games that people haven't been able to quite emulate. So hopefully they can pull it off. But I mean, if you're looking to play Tony Hawk right now, I don't know what your options are, especially with the quarantine situation, because you can't download HD, those old games. I mean, unless you can find them on eBay or something. I don't know how easy they are to find. So, but yeah.
Typically, game announcements don't have you seeking out 10-year-old versions of the game to get you excited for the one that's coming out in September.
I assume, yeah, most people, it's been long enough and they don't have access to those old games anymore. So, yeah, that's about it for me.
Huge. Huck?
I'm close to finishing Assassin's Creed Unity. I have basically, I think, 1 or 2 more missions left in the game. I have a couple issues with it. I can't remember how much they are resolved in later issues or later versions, but it seems like all of the later missions are essentially just, we're going to throw a shit ton of guys into an area and see if you can sneak through it or kill your way through it. There's not really anything too interesting about the setups. And then the other thing is, when you assassinate the person you're going to assassinate, they for some reason have a really long, unskippable cutscene that then after you are returned to gameplay and have to escape the mission. And if you're like me and just kind of rushed into the room, stab the guy, and then we're going to try to rush out and hope you can heal enough on the way out. If you die, you have to redo the whole thing, which includes that cutscene again. So that is quite frustrating, especially if it's a harder one and you have to watch it, 4, 5, 10 times. You end up putting down the controller and not coming back right away. So I can't remember if they fix this later on, but I'm sure they must have, because it's real frustrating. That's it. I should be able to finish that this week, and I've been enjoying it. I don't know if I'll move right on to Syndicate or whatever the next one is, but it's good. I like it.
Nice. I finally platinumed Final Fantasy VII Remake. So
look at this guy.
Got through hard mode in that. Feeling pretty good about it. Glad it's done. Really enjoyed it playing it on hard. I think I liked it more on hard, understanding the combat system, although there are some really hard boss fights, but nothing like I don't think I had to try anything more than 5 times or anything like that. It was pretty reasonable. I really liked it. Hey, you got to finish that off, Huck. You're gonna love it.
Yeah, I know. After talk with you today, I'm gonna definitely move my PlayStation 4 down into my hole here and really, really dive in.
Get in that hole. And I started up Last of Us, replaying that because I always make the mistake of replaying a game, the week before the new one comes out, and then I'm burnt out on it by the time the new one comes out. So I'm like, it's not that long a game. I'll play it now, go through it again, and then in a month from now, I'll be really excited to play the sequel. So, I'm over halfway through, probably 2/3, and I'm still loving the game. We had a junk mail about, someone replaying it and not liking it as much as they did, which I can kind of understand in some degrees. Like, there's not a lot going on. Like, it's a lot of walking, and then some combat sections that are a little repetitive, but I think there's lots of options in terms of how to play those with the different things you can craft and approaches to that I'm really liking and trying to use those different systems where I don't think I did the first time I played it, but it still looks great to me. Definitely noticing some of its graphic flaws more than I thought I would, like noticing it's a PlayStation 3 game in a lot of ways. So that has me really excited for what the next one's going to look like. It's been quite some time since the first one came out. It doesn't feel that long ago, but it's almost 8 years, I think, if not more.
Have you platinumed that game?
Oh, I'm gonna give it a shot. I don't know if it's gonna happen. There's like 2 online trophies that I don't think are gonna happen. And okay, it's been 6 years for Last of Us. Oh no, sorry, 7 for The Last of Us. And I don't know. I always had the dream of playing it in that like suicide mode or whatever, the one where you have no radar and whatever. And I always try to restart it and just get killed so quickly as soon as you get to the first real hard area, and it's real hard. Yeah, there's like survival, and they added a DLC on PlayStation 3 that's part of the HD remaster on PS4 called Grounded Mode. Thankfully, Grounded Mode is not part of the Platinum, although I am curious to try it out. If anyone out there has played Grounded and Survival and has some thoughts on that, let me know. But
what is Grounded? What is it Grounded about?
It's the most hardcore one. I think enemies 3 times as much damage, but again, no HUD, no listen mode, and some other stuff in there. So I'm almost done. I'm liking it. I never did the Left Behind DLC either, so I'm looking to do that as well. So yeah, I'm liking it. I don't think I'm like, compared to other games I've played since then, like, it was amazing for its time, but it's showing its age a little bit.
Yeah, I might fire it up as well, but the big decision for me is, do I try and continue the PS3 version, which I was about halfway through, or do I start over?
Last of Us?
No. Or do I start over with the remastered version?
Embarrassing.
Start over.
I didn't like The Last of Us that much, though, if I'm being honest. Like, I'll read, actually, so the junk mail from Derek, here's what he said, because he's playing through it as well, and he said he thought it was the perfect combo of story, cinematic pieces, and gameplay originally when he played it. This time through, however, it's a different experience. I find it to be slow, too many cut sequences, and not enough going on during the actual gameplay. Plus, I find the difficulty to be punishing at times where it doesn't really need to be. One-hit death from clickers, ?
Gotta upgrade those shivs, bud.
Yeah, I'm curious just to see if my memory of it is accurate. Like, I just remember the stealth stuff being frustrating and not that fun, but I did like the story, so I kind of just want to play through it for the story. Maybe I'll just throw it on easy and try that, but
I'm finding normal too easy. I don't know if it's because I've been playing on hard modes with a lot of stuff lately, but not so much. Sometimes the combat, I die. It's not like I never die, but like the resources, I have an overabundance of everything. And I think I talked about this in the first game. I search everywhere for everything. And like I have more stuff than I need. And I don't know, I just get frustrated when I come across a resource and it's like I can't even pick it up. I'm full of everything. I've crafted the max of everything, and I wish I had a way of converting that stuff into things that I could actually use. So that's my only real criticism with the game. Now, anyway, we'll talk about this when Last of Us 2 comes out. I'm looking at something about I think the actors changed between the two games, looks like.
Yeah.
So I don't know enough about it, though. I just my Google search is revealing different things. Anyway, I'm liking it, though. Should be done. Don't know what I'm going to play next. Probably Doom, or I have a kind of an itch to go back and do the Uncharted series. So
Final Fantasy 9 just came to Game Pass.
I would do 8 before I do 9, but I'm...
Yeah, well, 8's not there yet, so...
Oh,
I started it.
Not, you know.
Oh, not me.
Not on welfare here.
I started 9, and it's got the whole speed up thing, like you were saying, the new Final Fantasy 7 does, and it does make a nice, nice difference. Yeah.
Like grinding becomes a joy with that 3x speed. I love it.
Yeah, it's nice.
3x speed, the only way to play. Speed for movies, 3x speed for games. I wonder if a game is going to take it like advantage of that, like, or something where you start off at a certain speed, and then like they expect you to get good at that speed, and then it just constantly kind of ramps up the speed at which things happen, and or like Final Fantasy gives you a chance to play faster. Some games got to do that. It's got to happen. And not just in a retro game. Like it's got to be incorporated into gameplay. Like it could be a game about time travel or time as a resource. And if you do stuff on a faster thing, you like save time somehow. I don't know. It's an
Better
idea.
edit this out. Better edit it out.
Too many free ideas being let out there, Frank.
That's not that fully baked. It's not there. All right, that's it for me. Anything else before we sign off?
Nope.
No, I think that's it.
Okay, thanks for listening. Check out the Facebook page, facebook.com/GameJunk.
Yep.
And the Twitter, Game Junk Podcast.
You got it.
And on Twitter, you got Sean at Film Junk, and Andrew at My Angry Commute, and Equilibrium Sis, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
All right.
And why not pop over to equilibriumsystems.com, join the newsletter. Let's get a crew of Equilibrium System followers so that when I send out my newsletter twice a year, you guys can be informed of all the cool stuff.
Let Huck City know you're listening. It's just an acknowledgement. Let him know you're here for him.
That's right.
And I guess
I need some support.
We should maybe say Fold Apart coming to Xbox and PS4 Tuesday.
Yeah, this Tuesday. Yeah, May 19th. Yeah,
check that out. Finally get some trophies. No platinum though, so we'll see.
No platinum.
Anyway, I'll check it out. All right, we'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Huge week for news. We've got I can't even talk. I'm starting over. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Game Junk Prototype, episode 12, recording on May 15th, 2020. Start over. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Game Junk Prototype, episode 12, recording on May 5th, May 5th. Sean snapping.